And live stream. All right. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Monday's InstaClubhouse session. I'm glad you all could join us today. As always, we're going to get started by going over our ropes, just going over how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to behave in this virtual setting. So let me switch over to the ropes. As we start with the R, remember to respect everyone in this discussion. Everyone's voice is important and everyone is treated as equals. Please be responsible for your role in this discussion. You are held accountable for your actions. The sessions are recorded. That's for everyone's safety, and we use that so that we can share it out with anyone who wasn't able to attend today. Please be open-minded. This is a public space. Everyone's coming from different backgrounds, has different thoughts, so be open to those new ideas and look to become educated. Opportunity. I'm glad the three of you took the opportunity today to share and connect with each other. Moving on to the P, please be patient. Be patient with each other. Be patient with the facilitators. Using the virtual setting, there can be some technical issues that may cause some delays. Moving on to participation. We do encourage participation. We want this to be an interactive experience for everyone. However, we do respect people's right to pass. There's a topic that you don't want to discuss, you can decline. Moving down to E, even though you can pass, we do expect you to put forth some effort. When we're doing these activities, we ask that you do try the activities, even if you don't want to share your results from that activity. We ask that you remain engaged. Being in an online setting, there can be a lot of distractions. So find a place where you can stay focused, a place that you can kind of be focused on our conversation and kind of ignore all those other outside conversations going on around you in your home. The last E is enjoy. We do plan to learn things and share, but we also want this to be fun. We want this to be an enjoyable experience for you. So please let us know how we can improve it by filling out that reflection form at the end. And then lastly, our S's. Space in the online setting gives people space to speak. It's usually a good idea to maybe give a few seconds after someone's finished talking to make sure they completed their thought. And then lastly, S, safe space, and bullying, disrespect, inappropriate behaviors will not be tolerated. Again, we do record the sessions for your safety and the safety of others. And let's begin. So now I can stop presenting. And we're going to get into what the topic is today and then also with introductions and check-in. So today's topic is going to be an introduction into mental health. I don't know if you're aware of this, but May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. So every Monday for this month, we're going to be doing a Mental Health Monday. So we'll be talking about the idea of mental health, about some of this, thinking about some of the support that's for individuals going through that. So off with introductions, we're going to go around and just say your name, how you're doing today, and then also tell us the best part of your weekend. Since it's Monday, what went on this weekend and what was your favorite part? Does anyone want to volunteer to go first? So if no one volunteers, we're going to go in alphabetical order.
So
let's start with Casey.
I have nothing to hide. So, boring weekend, painting all day, outside painting. I had to take a bath in 100% alcohol to get the oil-based paint off of me, so that was great. And then, yeah.
What were you painting, Nick?
Waterproofing our deck. We have a deck outside, and yeah, and I kind of put my arm on a big thing of paint, just like a big strip, and my arm was covered in this oil-based paint, so I had to put it in a thing called mineral spirits, which is basically 100% alcohol to get it all off.
That sounds like a lot of hard work and did not sound too fun, but it's awesome that you're repainting your deck. That's cool. Let's go to you, Casey.
Okay, I'm Casey, and I'm good.
And best part of your weekend?
I hung out with my friend Raina.
Okay, very cool. Let's go to Lay next.
Hold on, I never did an introduction. I'm Nick, by the way. Sorry. I go to Carnegie. I work at the Carnegie Clubhouse. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about it. It's kind of tough calling on people, then also asking you to say your name. So it's all right. Lay, go ahead.
I did nothing. Sat in the house, did nothing. Nothing to reach the internet at least.
Okay. So nothing bad, nothing good. Kind of just an even weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you
That's
doing
his
today?
brain.
I'm fine. You're
Okay.
doing it wrong. You're going. Oh, my bad.
All right. I appreciate everyone checking in. I'm doing pretty well. Me and Nick were speaking Spanish a little bit earlier. I said CSC, which means kind of like I'm doing okay. The best part of my weekend was last night. I was watching the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary on ESPN. I look forward to it every Sunday because I'm a big Michael Jordan fan. So that was probably the best part of the weekend. But getting into the topic for today. So just to give you guys some background on myself. So I'm actually a trained mental health therapist. So that's what I went to college for. So mental health is something that's always fascinated me, but also something that is something I'm well educated on, but also something that is kind of like a personal thing I fight for and like advocate for. So the month of May is always really important to me, at least, because of mental health awareness. And I like having discussions about it with teens because teens tend to have a very educated and elevated understanding of mental health. And what I want to do today is kind of talk about what actually mental health is, look at some of the statistics in mental health, and then talk with you all about what it actually looks like and how you can identify it. So what I want to hear from you is when I say the word mental health disorder, what do you think? What words come to mind?
Anxiety.
Anxiety, definitely. Any other words?
I have nothing.
Okay. What about it if I said, can you give me a definition of mental health disorder? What would you say?
Somebody who can't process or their brain doesn't process a certain function. So what, like a part of their brain doesn't work or shut down or slowed, like the reaction time between the neurons in the brain is slowed, I'd say.
Okay, definitely. It is definitely something that impacts the way that our brain processes things around us. The, I guess, definition that we would say is a mental health disorder is when your personal thinking, emotional state, or behaviors are disrupted. Okay. It's pretty much when it disrupts the person's ability to work, attend school, carry out daily activities, or engage in satisfying relationships. Casey said anxiety. Everybody in the world goes through anxiety to some degree. You feel anxious sometimes. You feel depressed or sad sometimes. The moment that it becomes a mental health disorder is when it gets in the way of you being able to be your full self. It causes some dysfunction in your life. So, yeah, everyone gets depressed, but are you so depressed that you can't get out of bed or go to school? Everyone feels anxiety, but is it to the degree that it impacts the way that you have relationships with other people? Does that make sense to everyone? I'm seeing Casey nod her head. It's good. But yeah, that's the big thing when we think about a mental health disorder, that it's how much it causes dysfunction in your life. And that's going to be different for everyone. You know, everyone can handle different levels of anxiety, different levels of depression. It kind of depends on the individual person until it takes a toll on their daily functioning. The other thing when we talk about a mental health disorder, it has to be diagnosable. So there's a lot of people that have mental health illness but go around undiagnosed. When I say diagnosable, that means a mental health professional has actually met with that person and did an assessment with them. That's for it to be an official mental health disorder. Okay? I'm sure you guys have met people that are going through depression. They know it, they feel it, but it hasn't been diagnosed because they haven't seen anyone. So that we would call that someone who's undiagnosed. Go ahead, Casey.
Depression?
It is. So here's the thing. It's still considered to be depression. However, it's not officially put into that mental health disorder until a professional has actually diagnosed them. I know that's kind of weird to kind of think about that way, but it's like you could be home and you have the flu and you're sick, but it's not officially recorded as a case of the flu until that person goes into the doctor and gets it checked out. Does that make sense? You're giving me a face like it doesn't make sense. It's more of a thing that has to be proven by a doctor or assessed by a doctor for it to be recorded as officially a case of it. So when you see statistics about, the number of people going through depression in America, those numbers are only the people that have been diagnosed, have gone in and met with someone and been recorded. However, there's a ton of other people out there that are going through the mental health disorder but have not been diagnosed, so they don't get counted. Get what I'm saying? All right, moving forward, when we talk about mental health disorders, what are some examples? So I know Casey said anxiety disorder. Can you think of any others? These could be. Bipolar definitely is one. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but bipolar is definitely a mental health disorder. It deals with kind of experiencing highs and lows. And we talk about highs and lows. These are more than just mood swings. These would be extreme. So being, so depressed that you can't get out of bed, and then days later, or even hours later, feeling so energized that you feel like you can't stop doing something. So definitely bipolar is one. So we have anxiety, bipolar. Any others?
I have nothing about mental disorders. Nothing. I have nothing.
Okay, that's cool, Lay. And this is a good opportunity for you to kind of learn and get some information about it.
Sure.
So another mental health disorder that you probably have heard of is people who go through depression. And again, that's more than just feeling sad or feeling blue one day. It's to the point that you are so low or so upset or so saddened that it's starting to impact the way you function. Have you ever heard of psychosis? Has anyone ever heard that before?
I didn't.
Okay.
I have.
So psychosis is anytime that you have a break with reality or a disconnect with reality. This is a situation where an individual might be experiencing delusions or hallucination. There's something going on in their brain that they're not seeing the world as everyone else does to a severe degree. A lot of times psychosis is portrayed, a lot of times people, when they think of mental health, they jump right to psychosis. It's actually been proven that psychosis is a very small percentage of people with mental illness. And you'll see that in a second when we look at statistics. The last two that I'm going to mention are actually ones that a lot of times people don't necessarily associate with mental health disorders. And that is substance use or addiction is a form of mental health disorder. And then also eating disorders is another form of mental health disorders. Again, it's when your brain is not functioning in a way that you can fulfill your daily normal activity. So if you think about an addict, someone who's going through substance abuse issues, their whole life is focused on that drug, and that impacts their ability to go to work, their ability to have relationships. All that meets the requirements of a mental health disorder. Okay?
So it's like weed a drug if you're addicted to it? Can they pronounce weed as a drug?
Weed is definitely a drug. I use the word interesting because it's like an area of study for me.
I'm saying that wrong. I know weed's a drug, but say like how you saying addicted to drugs. So like,
Hmm.
so is weed put in that category? Because weed can't necessarily kill you.
So when we talk about weed, it would fall into a category of it is not physically addictive, but it's mentally addictive. So when you think about drugs like heroin, tobacco, things like that, there's literally your body chemistry changes to the point that the body physically needs it and craves it. Okay. When we talk about marijuana, there isn't that physical dependence or physical addiction where like the body itself needs it, but the mental addiction, the habit of using it, the person feeling that they mentally need it to function, that is an addiction. Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Okay. So it does fall in that interesting category. And for most drugs, when you think about them, they do have both. And studies have shown that the physical addiction is easier to get over than the mental addiction. So when you talk about someone who's an alcoholic, they will go into detox where they will go into a facility where they cannot drink and they are physically weaned off of alcohol. They stop using it to the point that their body is at the point that it regulates physically to not need alcohol anymore. However, the mental addiction, the need to have that substance is still there. That has to be resolved through therapy. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. The other thing, I'm glad you brought up the addiction piece and substance use because a lot of times with substance use disorders or addiction, that is paired with another mental health disorder. So someone might be using drugs, using marijuana or whatever, to deal with depression. So if they smoke weed, they don't have to think about the things that are going on in their lives. And then that becomes the addiction. So they have what we call a dual diagnosis or co-occurrence, where they have more than one mental health issue going on at the same time. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation because each week we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each one of these mental health disorders. But this week, I just wanted to kind of introduce you to mental health and then also kind of look at how mental health plays a role in teens' lives overall. So what I'm going to show you right now is I'm going to pull up some statistics on teen mental health, and I want to just get your thoughts on what you see. So let me share my screen with you and pull this up. Hold on. There it is. All right. So when we look at this table right here, it gives you the percentage of mental health disorders for adolescents, so 13 to 18. So if you look at this, almost 32% of all teens from 13 to 18 are going to experience mental health, experience anxiety to some degree. Now, over here, it also says with severe impact. These are like major cases where a person might be hospitalized or needs treatment. So someone could have an anxiety disorder, but not necessarily need treatment. The next one, we look at behavior disorders. This would be your depression that we're looking in here. Mood disorders would include things like bipolar. And then we have our substance use disorders. So when you're looking at these statistics, they are good statistics. They were done scientifically and the research is there and everything like that. But like I said before, when we talk about counting and numbers and things like that, these are the people that have been diagnosed, the people that have come forward and have met with a mental health professional and have actually been counted. So when you look at these statistics, I want to get your thoughts on what do you think of them? The prevalence numbers, the amount, what do you see here? Do you think this looks realistic? Is it shocking? What are you thinking? Thoughts, feelings?
What is
School.
the NA?
School is the reason for that. School is the reason.
I would agree. I mean, when you think about, I mean, it's not the only reason, but a lot of anxiety for teens comes around school. I would 100% agree with that. Casey, what were you going to say?
Like, I know what NA means. I'm saying, like, why is it, like, right there? Like, they don't know?
Yeah, they don't know. They don't have the data for that. when you look at that with severe impact, what do you notice about this 22.2 number? Does that seem correct, or does it seem like that doesn't make sense?
I mean, for the people that actually like are diagnosed, I mean, it might not be overall, but everybody doesn't come forward. So
that's true. Well, when we think about that with severe impact, 22% of teens are going through this. Like, that's a pretty big number. You know, that's almost 1 in 5 people, 1 in 5 teens are experiencing some type of mental health issue with severe impact. Does that shock you, or do you think is that kind of like you expected that to revert to be that common?
I expected it.
Severe.
So Nick expected it. And Casey, what were you going to say?
I wouldn't expect it with like severe. It was big with the first row, but like the second one, I don't know. I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah. I mean, the hard thing about it is it's way more common than people think. So a lot of times people feel, you know, I'm alone with this mental illness, or like something's wrong with me. Like it's out there more than people would actually guess. And it's hard because a lot of people who go through a mental illness feel like they're by themselves. However, and it leads them to not reach out for help. But really, there's a lot of other people struggling as well, and they could be that support. So the next thing I want to look at, if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to look at major depressive episodes. So this is someone who's going through depression at some point. And we look at these, it's broken down into multiple categories by gender, by sex, age, and race. So if we take a look, it shows that women or females tend to have more major depressive episodes than males. What are your thoughts on that? Why do you think that is? Why does that statistic show that so many more women are going through major depressive episodes versus so few of men?
Women are more than guys do.
Yeah, okay. Women are more emotional. I could understand that. Other thoughts?
I have nothing to say about that one.
Okay. When we look at these, go ahead.
With females and males, the same thing can happen to both. So I have nothing really for that.
There it is. Good job, Lay. That's what I was looking for. The statistics show that women have a higher rate, showing more. They have more episodes, but it's more that both men and women experience these depressive episodes, but it's more likely that a woman would come out and get support, get help, and talk about it. So there's kind of a stigma throughout cultures that men shouldn't talk about their feelings. They're not as open about it. So they're not going to be counted as much. Doesn't mean that they don't have these feelings. It's just that they don't talk about it as much. That makes sense?
Yep.
Disagree with that? Hi, Keisha.
Hey, I'm about to leave, so I was getting dressed and stuff.
Hey, Keisha. Looking at some of the statistics and kind of discussing them a little bit. So right now we're looking at depressive episodes that occur across gender, age, and race. So we're actually going to move to age next. If you look at the numbers starting from 12 to 17, it steadily goes up and up and up in the numbers of depressive cases. Why do you think that is? As the teens get older, they're having more cases of these issues. Why do you think that is?
Because teens be stressed.
Okay. I mean, the stress that a 12-year-old goes through versus a 17-year-old are definitely different.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
That's why kids start smoking cigs.
Definitely. That and drug and the statistic isn't here, but drug use does increase as they get later into their teens as well. I like that. Good job. Any other thoughts about why, as you progress through your teen years, that more people are having these depressive episodes?
Casey?
Hi.
Say something.
She was volunteering you to talk, Casey.
Oh, I don't know. What was the question?
So why do you think from 12 to 17 we see an increase in depressive cases or episodes?
How long have you been living for? You're all bald head. Turn around.
I don't know. It has to do with more of the stress level. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what Keisha was saying. The stress levels, the things that are stressful in your life do increase. As you get older, you have more responsibilities. So you think about a 12-year-old that just got done like is in middle school versus a 17-year-old who's getting ready to leave high school. The things that they have to think about and account for is a lot. It's a lot more stressful. They might have a job, they might be playing a sport, they have more responsibility in the home. Definitely. And then the last portion is looking at race. So when we look at these numbers for race, we see that they're pretty steady amongst Hispanics and whites, Asians, and biracial. But we see in the Black and this is American Indian or Native American, the numbers are extremely low. Why do you think that is? Why do you think in those categories there's less cases of major depressive episodes?
Okay.
What?
So within the Black or Native American community, there's lower percentages of major depressive episodes. Why do you think that is?
Because
this is your opinion. There's no right or wrong answer.
Young children aren't normally stressed. There's nothing to stress about, you know. That's why.
Well, that was for the age. Now we're looking at race.
Okay. What did you say it again?
So in the African American community and the Native American community, the percentage of teens going through a major depressive episode is lower. Why do you think that is than other races?
Oh, I don't know for real. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes back to what I was talking about before with men and women. It's the stigma. There's a stigma within those communities that mental health is not necessarily real, or they look to other options to address those issues. So people in those communities don't necessarily go and look for mental health treatment as other races would. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is not mean that every single African American family doesn't look to get mental health services or anything like that. It's more
I'll be back.
that. Say it again. Who said that?
She said, "I'll be back."
Okay. But yeah, that's kind of how it breaks out statistically. So what I want to do, I'm going to stop presenting that for a second, is have a bigger conversation with all of you and discuss how we can recognize a mental health issue.
Shut up.
About a mental health issue. It's a dysfunction or causing issue in the normal way that someone would live their lives. As teenagers, you're going through a time period where a lot of things are changing. May that be physically, mentally, socially, all these different things. So to understand or be able to identify a normal change versus this is actually something that's concerning, we need to first come up with kind of like a baseline understanding of what teenagers are changing and going through. So what I want to do is, let me share this with you guys. I want to look at typical teen development and what that would look like. So I want you to think about 4 parts of your life or a teenager's life: physical change, mental changes, emotional changes, and social changes that occur when you move into going throughout your teen years. So this is actually our community discussion. So I'm going to stop the recording and stop the live stream, and then we'll come back and start the community discussion. So hold on one second.